Hello. Thank you so much for having me here in Rio. I've been in the city a few days now, and it's very beautiful. It's my first time here, and I apologize I don't speak Portuguese. It's a beautiful language, but I'm going to present today in English. And you'll notice my slides are mostly text because I'm a print journalist. I'm not very good at photographs and visualization, unfortunately. We have other members of our team who are very good at that. I want to talk today about our fact-checking of the 2016 election and Donald Trump, and how we received a lot of feedback and criticism from our audience, from our readers, from citizens and voters, and how we responded to it. PolitiFact is 10 years old, so this was our third presidential election that we fact-checked. Let's see. Here's my contact info, and Twitter and email, and feel free to get in touch with me after the festival. I have to go to the airport right away, but please do feel free to reach out to me. So fact-checking in the U.S. is big. Besides PolitiFact, and this was our third presidential election, we had all these other organizations that also did fact-checking during the election. It was a time when fact-checking had become more popular, more people had heard of PolitiFact, and then we had a candidate, Donald Trump, who said many things that needed to be fact-checked. So 2016 was our most fact-checked election. Now, again, some of this was that organizations like PolitiFact and factcheck.org and the Washington Post Fact Checker had been around, and the other larger media organizations saw what we were doing and how popular it was. So the New York Times started fact-checking, NPR was fact-checking, Associated Press. And what they found was that the fact-checking articles would often be the most popular fact-checks on their website. During the election, we debunked many Trump falsehoods, everything from, he said one of his political opponent's father, Ted Cruz's father, was involved with the assassination of JFK. That was totally wrong. We gave it our worst rating, pants on fire. So he would say big things like that to more mundane things. He would get trade figures wrong. He would get comments about tax policy wrong. So he was someone who needed a lot of fact-checking on matters big and small. Now, the reaction to this fact-checking was not always great, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. On the left, people will often tell us that we're not tough enough on Trump, on Republicans. And on the right, they say you're part of the liberal media. And we heard a lot of that during the election. So how do we respond? Okay, there are three things that I learned from the 2016 election that helped us to respond. The first thing was have a methodology. By a methodology, what I mean is this. We have a process for fact-checking that we spell out to readers. We've written it down. I'll show you in a minute what I'm talking about. But we tell people how we pick what we want to fact-check. At PolitiFact, we pick things that are in the news and that would make the regular person say, I wonder if this is true or not. We do not balance our ratings. During normal times, we try to pick an equal balance of Republicans and Democrats. Right now, the Republicans control the Congress and the presidency, so we fact-check the people who are in power. So right now, we're fact-checking more Republicans. But I can explain that to our readers. I tell them, we're not going to fact-check half of the Democrats when they're such a minority. Transparency, transparency, transparency. We publish our method. We publish our sources. We publish our financials. There's a lot of talk about objectivity. I don't love the term objectivity because I think it's misunderstood. I consider myself and our team at PolitiFact to be independent journalists. We're not in favor of any one party. We can look at all of them and criticize them as they need it or don't need it. So we're not beholden to any side. And we show that by being transparent. And then finally, the lesson I learned was stick to the core principles of journalism. So methodology. So we have a published story that explains how we pick our facts to check, how we report and research, and other important procedures. We call it the principles of PolitiFact, pundit fact, and the truthometer. And that's a short link so that you can look at it if you like. It's a long document. It explains in kind of excruciating detail exactly how we do our work. But it's something that we can point to when readers say, why do you do it that way? How do you do it that way? I would strongly urge you to have your own method, whether you're a fact checker or not. Let's say you're not a fact checker. Maybe you have a mission statement and you say, this is what we cover and this is how we cover it. Then when readers say, why are you covering it this way? You can say, well, this goes back to our mission. And it helps the readers, it helps me too. It helps me to be clear in my own mind about what we're about, what we're doing, because it's easy to get distracted. Okay, transparency, publish your methodology. List your funders. At PolitiFact, we list our funders. We're following a model of multiple income streams. So we have the money that newspapers give us to run our stories. We have digital advertising. We have some grants from foundations that are interested in civic discourse and democracy building. And we have a new membership campaign that we launched just this year where we ask our readers to directly support us. That was a big step for us because before this year, we didn't have a way to accept money. I mean, we didn't have like a way people could donate. So if you're a young news organization and you already have people donating, you're probably ahead of where we were. But now we have that donation. On our stories, we list all of our sources. If you're in online news, you can do a source list. On PolitiFact, all of the stories on the right-hand rail, we have our source list. So people can see what we checked. This is a good way of heading off criticism because if people see that you consulted a source, like sometimes they come back and they say, you didn't look at that. And we'll say, yes, we did, and it's on our source list. And then finally, make corrections. Nobody likes corrections. I don't like corrections. But I think it shows to readers that we're willing to admit when we make mistakes, and we're only human, so we will make mistakes. For fact-checking, if you're interested in a code or what a mission statement might look like, this is the International Fact-Checking Network's Fact Checkers Code of Principles, and you can look at it. And it includes a lot of the things I just talked about, transparency of funding, transparency of method, listing your funders. This is something that was created with the input of fact checkers like Christina, Lupa, PolitiFact, Full Fact, Africa Check, fact checkers all over the world. And we put together these core principles that we could all agree on. With the International Fact-Checking Network, we are not coming from a particular point of view or from a partisan lens. So we are on the side of the truth, on the side of evidence, reason, logic. That is our mission. You may have a different mission. I think this could be adopted to almost any news organization, even if they're not fact-checkers or if they don't see themselves as coming from this independent space. So these are the core principles, because sometimes people say like, well, you say all this, you have your method, but you fact-check Trump so many times and your ratings of him are so negative, you must be against him. But I say, we take the side of truth. Trump says many things that are wrong. He's the president of the United States. He needs to be corrected whenever he says anything big or small. And I won't apologize for fact-checking him as often as we do. And the ratings are the ratings because that's the accuracy level of his statement. I take the side of truth in fact-checking. And that comes before anything else. And it certainly comes before trying to create any sort of false balance. Independence, again, this is what I personally love about being a journalist. I don't have to be a Democrat or a Republican or have opinions that are on the left or on the right. I get to come in and do my work and call it the way I see it. is very important to me personally and important to our mission at PolitiFact. We only have 2 parties in the United States, so power swings back and forth. Every party has the potential to abuse power or to do responsible governance, and we want to stay independent and be able to call it the way we see it. And then service to the public. I really think this is important. People often say, like, well, if Trump was elected, it's because the media didn't do a good enough job. I say no to that. We are not about getting people elected or not elected. I don't think the media has that much power. We're about giving people the information they need to make decisions in the voting booth, to hold their elected officials accountable. It's a service profession. We're trying to give citizens the information they need to govern themselves in a democracy. The end. Thank you.